Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the
Sons of Aries podcast.
I'm Matthew Brown.
I'm Jason Cox.
And I'm Daniel Severi, seeing as we're doing formal full names.
Ooh, pretty good. Formal full. So, today, we're going to discuss dating, dating apps, how authentic they feel, how valuable they are as a means of finding partners. We're going to explore that, I guess.
And if they're not correct, what the bloody hell are we going to do about it? We're going to answer that right here, right now, this
We are fucked.
We've had it, as a wise philosopher from Pitstone once said.
Ivango, get it right.
Sorry.
She was born in Pitstone, but...
Yeah, so she's from Pitstone.
Yeah, alright.
Who are we talking about?
His mum.
His mum.
Your mum.
Your mum. Quite literally. But yeah.
Straight to the your mum jokes. So I suppose if we can jump off from a little conversation we had earlier, and we were talking about what we were going to talk about.
Whoa.
Preamble.
You guys both made it quite clear that you struggled with the kind of perceived intrinsic glibness of the dating app, not the app itself, obviously, not you don't like the interface, but about selling yourself. So I guess let's start with Jace, as has become customary. So what were your kind of thoughts and struggles with that?
So the problem with me is it's obviously intrinsic to the map itself. You're selling yourself, right, with a few pictures and a few words, and obviously everyone agrees that that's difficult to do in such a small amount of sort of information. So it's boiled down to people saying it seems a handful of things to sell themselves with, and often it gets repeated and repeated. So it ends up being basically the same pool of sort of message or information about someone. That just seems to be something that people pick up on. So therein lies the problem for me.
So it kind of it invites you to say what seems to be working.
Yeah,
Right.
and that basically breeds a lot of not lies, but it's things like, I like travelling, for instance. A lot of people like to see that other people like travelling because it says something about them that's quite exploratory or open, so people like to hear that. And then so people that actually aren't into that end up saying just that to sell themselves, sort of thing.
Right, if you set up a gameable system,
yeah,
you can just, I can say whatever that gets me the result that I want.
Yeah.
The result that I want is loads of date,
yeah,
or loads of sex,
yeah,
or whatever it is.
As many matches as
not
possible.
Not necessarily a partner.
But do you think everyone is just playing the meta game there, to use a gaming term?
No, it's just a lot.
I think a lot of them actually are just like that.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I think a lot are, but I think people latch on to certain things when they're not particularly to that sort of thing. They're almost lying to themselves that they think they are, but there's a difference between.
Well, it doesn't have to be conscious as well. You could just.
Oh no! A lot of time I don't think it is conscious. No, I think the majority of
you
time
can just you can put something on there.
Yeah.
Notice the fact that you either do or don't get responses, and then you're like, well, I can change what I put out there, and then that changes the kinds of responses that I get, and then you kind of experiment with it, and then you're like, oh, well, I say this, it gets me this. Yeah. These kinds of responses. If I say I like travelling, if I say I like cheese, or if I say I like whatever it is, butt play, then it gets me these kinds of responses.
But is that the real person?
Three things on my profile, by the way.
So that's the problem.
Travelling, cheese, and butt play.
Don't forget
that's one of the problems. Yeah.
I think I saw it. I forgot who said it, but it's a really good quote. It's, when you date someone, you're not dating them; you're dating their representative.
Chris Rock.
Is it? Yes, not Seneca.
Yeah. Close. Yeah, it was from one of his comedy specials.
It's bang on, isn't it?
Yeah, you're dating their representative. I haven't used the apps in quite a while, several years, I think. Mainly for that reason. Primarily when in my 20s, when I was using them, I was just using them to date as much as I could. As men, as many as I could.
Sure.
I can't remember what I used to put on my bio, to be fair.
A lot just have nothing.
Yeah,
it's difficult because
it's very minimal.
I think there's a small amount of ground in which you write something because what you write, obviously people will read, and you can put off a lot of people, but not necessarily, sort of like, not intentionally, but you could easily say not the wrong thing even, but just something that doesn't resonate with someone, and they go, oh, they like this, therefore that's sold it for me, that I actually don't want to talk to this person. When there's so much more about someone than the things that they can possibly write in however many characters it is on there.
Yeah. You are kind of having to reduce yourself down to like 4 or 5 things.
Yeah, and like, I like Harry Potter and travelling and...
Harry Potter, dogs and Disney and pub lunches. Fucking pub lunches.
And it's like, I do like those things, or, not those things, but the things I write, but also there's so much more. And it's hard to really, even sometimes, for myself, because I struggle to articulate, as I'm doing right now, is put into words certain things that you do like or have interest in. Because it can, like if you write, I like philosophy, you sound like a bit of a penis to a lot of people. However, that actually conduces quite a lot of things that you might be thinking, but isn't quite necessarily what someone else on the other end of that match would think. Yeah.
Because I think they're often not going, oh, that's a genuine intellectual. They're going, oh, fuck me.
This guy's
just going to...
Or they think he loves Andrew Tate or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
Big
so it's difficult. Difficult one.
Was that a John Foot quote there?
A John Foot quote.
Difficult, isn't it? So I think something you showed us just before we started recording, Matt, was we were, for our listeners, talking about what our most successful picture was on these apps. He's getting his phone out like you can bloody see it.
No, I'm trying to turn on my phone.
He's lost it.
Down there, Matt.
Oh, thank you, mate.
Good SE. Whereby you were a little bit surprised that it did you so well. So I'll just describe it to the listeners. It's him lying back topless with some kind of wolf mask and a drink in his hand. But I think that actually hits a really good point about authenticity and validity, in that people just like some kind of stark identity, right? That's not a one-size-fits-all. That's not a bit of like bland modern art that you're meant to see what you want to see. That's, here I am, it's kind of weird, but I'm fun, have a pop if you like.
Right, here's what I do on a Friday night. I'm sat in an armchair with a Prosecco, wolf mask on, sunglasses, topless.
But there's also a hint of irony that obviously we know that you're not actually the fucking Wolfman.
Only on Fridays.
It's also how
one Friday a month.
How you are looking to present yourself on there. That is you saying something. Like a picture speaks 1,000 words. I think that's right. With some pictures, obviously, are not like that because they're straight up. You're standing there posing, but something like that shows a little bit more. I am putting myself in this position to have a picture taken of me in this style, and that is what I want to show to people for whatever you want to say, basically.
No, I think the apps are just like they're designed for you to be able to do that. I think it's one of the reasons why I stopped liking them, because I kept like the same reason why I came off Facebook years ago initially was because I caught myself doing Facebook. Like I would like, have lunch at work or whatever, and I'd just sit in the office or wherever it was and just scroll through it. And I just caught myself one day and was like, "The fuck are you doing?" Right? Someone go outside, go and talk to the bees or whatever it is.
All that normal shit.
And I kind of had the same thing with Tinder or Hinge or whatever ones exist now. Like I would find myself going through like a couple of weeks of either not having that many responses or the kind of responses I would like or the kind of matches that I would like, and then
which is depressing.
And then changing like the order of my photos or the order of my bio.
Oh yeah.
And it's like just as if making those kind of subtle changes was gonna like bring in the
that's
money.
all you could do.
And I don't know. I just felt really sad when I caught myself doing that. I was like, just go and fucking talk to people. Go outside and meet people, like in the actual real world.
Welcome to marketing, chaps.
Yeah, I'm not good at it.
But that is essentially what it is, isn't it? You are basically doing a sales pitch for yourself.
Sure.
It's more like an elevator pitch, or
right.
CV.
Well, but okay. So to kind of critique what we're saying here a little bit, like how is that much different from when you are out in the real world, meeting people? Because again, you're still putting something out there.
It is, but it's such a snapshot of your personality. Whereas obviously, people you can gain so much more in 5 minutes than any detailed profile can give.
Yeah,
the way that you present yourself, I present myself, Dan presents himself. through speaking, body language, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, because in the real world, on the dating apps rather, it's not as real because there's no back and forth. That you don't see how you, to use that word again, vibe with someone. And I think quite a lot
body
of
language as
yeah,
well.
well, this is it. A lot of it is their demeanour, or just like gut feeling. You know, we're all basically animals at the end of the day. It's very difficult to get that from a picture or some words, and then of course you get the bigger arsake of, can you trust that picture?
Oh yeah,
It's
that's
not
another
happened
level.
to me very many, maybe like once, maybe 1.5 if I'm being harsh, where I've met someone and gone for like that bit in The Office, where he's like, oh, for fuck's sake. But then obviously the picture is, I wouldn't say it's in bad faith as a catfish, but certainly like, come on, love, that ain't you.
They got the angle exactly right kind of thing.
I mean, that's just intrinsic to pictures, isn't it? But I always give myself some sort of like 15 to 20% is usually the rate you have to which like demote them from the pictures.
Margin of error.
Yeah, like the pictures will look 15 to 20% better than they do in real life because it's fabricated, isn't it? Usually pictures in some way or another.
I think it kind of depends on who you're looking for, right? Because I think women's pictures are better than they're better at taking pictures in general.
Oh
than
yeah,
men are.
yeah.
So I reckon you'll find that same rule but flip reversed.
Yeah.
And that, to be fair, that's only from personal experience. Because the comment I often got was, "Oh, you look better than the picture."
Yeah.
And
Or
that's
fairly
not me
representative.
like bragging. It's just geezers are not good at taking pictures, mainly because it's not your priority.
Yeah.
You know, if we're out and about doing stuff, our priority is being out and about doing stuff, not like, oh, let's take a snap.
I think men also try not to, or they don't think about like hiding any part of them. Like often you get women where they like cut off some of the picture basically, and they have like shoulders up to
or whether they basically
hide the
got
rest.
the camera press into their nose.
Yeah,
Those kind of ones. Yeah.
to like basically
They have like insecurities,
Yeah.
and they're trying to like not put
Hide
those
their
out
body,
there. They're
yeah.
like, I want to keep my insecurities to myself and show you the bits that I'm proud of.
yeah,
Which is fair enough.
because they're doing the same thing. Yeah,
But
That's
you know, with my mechanical mind, I can't help but compare it to selling a product. So I think in general, if I were to sell a product, it would look weird and sketchy as it is on these apps. If you were like, don't look at that bit, you're obviously covering a bit up. Like, what's that?
For
What's
people
that bit you're hiding? Oh, nothing. Don't worry about it. No one's going to fall for that shit.
No, well, people do, but yeah, we think about that sort of thing. That we think, why are they not showing a full body picture? Well, there's
Well,
the
I guess
reason.
maybe it's like how it differs from a product is that maybe you, as a person, you kind of instinctively appreciate that, well, I have insecurities, things that I'm not exactly forthcoming about at first point of contact, so it's probably not that unlikely that they're going to be doing the same thing. Whereas with a product, it is weird when you're like, well, I'm buying this thing, so
can I
like,
not see it?
please show me the whole thing before the transaction's complete.
Yeah.
Whereas with a human, you're like, well, you're going to be a bunch of stuff I'm not going to see for at least 3 months because I'm going to keep some shit to myself for at least 3 months or maybe longer. So I don't know, maybe there's like a subconscious understanding that that's part and parcel of the process of dating rather than the exchanging of a product.
I think that's probably right. So to kind of circle back, how were you, Matt, with that kind of glibness of it? Did you struggle with it? Did you enjoy the game, or what? As opposed to
Sorry, what do you mean by glibness?
So you know what we're hitting on, what Jace was talking about was elevator pitching yourself. Did you find that easy? Did you find it hard? Did you find it like distasteful?
Well, I used to find it easier, I think, when I was a bit more manipulative in my early 20s. And then that just got harder for me. Except with the same reason why I used to work in sales, and then I now can't work in sales because like it just doesn't sit right with me to. There's a way of doing sales that isn't dishonest, obviously, but there's especially when there's bonuses.
The more effective way
incentives
is to be.
Well, just cut corners or like sort of it was like I'll give you an example. When I was, I worked abroad briefly for a company that was. Where you were put on a team and you were representing charities. This was in New Zealand, and we were calling Australians who had previously donated to these charities to try and get them to donate again, right? And like there's like 5 or 6 different charities being represented in the room with different teams. You're on one team, you're calling up people, and most of these people are elderly, like in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and who have already donated, and you're calling them up, and you're not an Australian, asking an Australian to donate to the New South Wales Fire Services. Or
Did you ever put an accent on?
No.
Oh, should have done.
And you're like, oh, how's it going? Like, we see you donated for this cause a while ago. Wondering if you wanted to do it again this
and we
year.
want more.
And they would say like, oh, well, I'm a little hard up this year. You can't really do it. And then at that time, this was a few years after I'd left sales. For me, when I heard that, I was like, okay, cool. That's fair enough. You have a nice day. But then the expectation is from your manager or the team is like, no, you have to keep pushing. You have to keep.
You go, oh, are you more hard up than the people who need extra food?
Well, not exactly that.
More hard up than them?
Not exactly.
Oh, what did you spend your excess income on this week? Do you mind me asking?
Yeah, those kinds of program questions.
Tell I'm a right prick.
Oh no, but those are the kinds of like follow-up questions. It's not exactly that. Like, oh, are you that hungry?
Yeah, not that psychopath. Yeah, don't read into that.
But I lasted like 2.5 days at that job because I was like, I can't just push elderly people. And so somewhat, I think my temperament changed, and I think at the same time I stopped feeling comfortable using those kinds of apps because I was watching myself. And I know you don't have to be manipulative to use these things. You can be authentic and you can just put yourself on there.
You don't have to be mad.
Then there's the question of is it the case that everyone who uses these apps puts something on there and then spends the entire rest of their existence freaking out about what's on their Tinder profile? Because that we may just be an odd sample of people who do that.
From what I've seen and watched and the people I've spoken to, I would say we're pretty good representation.
Yeah, maybe not.
Obviously, there is no one size fits all. But then we have another question, which sounds like another question from one of our callers. How would you define the boundaries of what is manipulative or what is putting one's best foot forward?
I'm trying to figure out what that is.
It is makeup manipulative. Is, let's say, I'm not this much of a douchebag, but let's say if I were to have a topless picture and make sure that every fucking light was pointing down and stark, so it looked like I've got 10 times bigger abs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So would that be manipulation? Because that's not what I look like in that scenario.
No.
It's funny, but I think to be fair, we've been.
Well, again, I think maybe it depends. It depends on why you're using it, and that's probably one of the difficult things for people who use these apps for looking for relationships, is that not everyone on there is doing that. So you're having to kind of.
I think it's sort of like a bit of a mix though. So that would elicit a positive response from certain people, but also it would do the exact opposite. It would turn a lot of people the other way.
Yeah, that's true.
People would see that and go, cool, yeah, obviously I know he's done this, that and the other to make it look good. However, he's done that and put it on there. And people just, the same as I see a fit picture of a girl and I go, oh yeah, blimey, I'll have some of that.
All right, was she in uniform as well?
Yeah. Only for a minute.
Hey, nice.
So yeah, I mean, it can be both sides, but it's the balance between that. Obviously, you're going to come across a certain way by fabricating it to that point.
Sure. I mean, you're not going to please everybody.
Yeah.
With, what you're doing.
Yeah.
And we're back to that eternal gaming dichotomy of do you go for the balance build or the min-max?
That's it, yeah.
I actually much prefer the balance build. Which, again, if I'm going to talk cynically, I am a cynical fucker as it turns out. If we're talking about lead generation, what you're essentially doing is making yourself as universally appealing.
Accessible for more people, however, not like proper standout to the select few, which would probably be the best way to do it if you're looking for something like serious, is to go, this is really me. Yeah, and if you know what you want, if you could fully show who you are in the most way, that'd probably be the best, rather than try to appeal to the masses.
Putting effort into articulate or expressing yourself as much as possible, and then seeing what comes in as a consequence, rather than trying to adjust yourself to other people's expectations to maximise signals or whatever.
I think from my research, i.e. asking people, that I've come a cropper with that technique, because there's been a couple of people who I've ended up with kind of accidentally, not through the apps, just on a different thing, they've messaged me and then we've got chatting, blah blah. And a couple of these women in particular said, if I'd found you on an app, although I fancy you, I'd have said no because you look like you're more of like a douchebag than you actually are. But I'm aware that this is why the real life thing works, because that's part of my thing, is like ironically doing a lot of the douchebaggy things for my own amusement, but I'm not actually one, but I also am a little bit. It's hard to convey that through what's essentially, it is douchebaggy, which essentially, like what you've got there is a fucking tweet like thing to sell yourself.
Yeah.
So it's impossible, but I think I actually found it in general easier than you two, and I don't mean I did better. I mean, I was like, right, I'm aware. Yeah, exactly. This is the game. These are the rules. I want to win. Therefore, I'll play to win. But then, what the fuck is winning? Clearly, I haven't bloody won, have I? But in the short term,
it depends, because people do use these apps for different reasons.
Yeah, playing different games. Basically. Because
some people do, like some people use them because they travel a lot, and so they wind up in different cities, and they're like, well, I find people to hang out with, whether it leads to.
I mean, we've had it from a couple of girls saying that often they've used it as literally just an ego boost to go on to get matches. To go, I can attract people, or people do like me in these ways or pictures or whatever they're putting on there, and then don't do anything about it. They just boff it off and go, that'll do. I've had my validation and that's enough. And that I've had a couple of people say that they've done that,
which actually sounds really bad, but I think it's also difficult or unfair to judge based on that.
It's there for you to use your wish, I guess. You can.
It's no different to what you do on the street. You might have a look at someone and they'll look at your back and you go, yeah, she had a look, and that's that. Like, are you being a dick by not firing across the traffic to go to chat to her in case she's the one, in case she's Neo?
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah,
basically, the app is there that can be used to do that. Sure. So it has been, and you obviously you can't get out of that because it's intrinsic to the way the app is.
What's interesting then, as a follow-up question, to speak in a kind of more big picture, if you're into kind of watching anything online remotely around this subject, the zeitgeist at the moment is, these things are terrible, dating is a fucking dumpster fire. Do we think that's actually the case? Or is that just the ones like us who have failed or fucked it up in some way, who are basically bitching about it?
Well, it's definitely worked for a lot of people, and it has potential to, because you can get through a lot more numbers through an app, obviously, than you can in real life. And you're so limited with actual time and space around you.
Yeah. So maybe my surmisement would be, it works in a hell of a lot of cases, but if you have certain traits about you that are kind of conflicting or contrasting rather, or not trying to offend anyone, but are a bit different, not saying like we're so different and edgy,
quirky,
but there are stuff about all of us that is a bit out
contradictory
and doesn't really add up.
Yeah.
So I guess if you are like, you're very sure in yourself and you are this way, you are this type of person who likes the cushiness, or you like to just shag around, or you want a bit of like a wild child adventure holidays. They're the kind of three like generic ones that spring out to me. Or like all you want from life is to fucking breed dogs together. Whatever, then it's easily there. But if you're like me and your thing is you're semi-ironically trying to conquer the world, it's hard for that to come across without seeming like a joke or like a complete arsehole.
Nutter.
Or like for yourself, it's hard, Jace. It's hard to point out like, oh, I'm really, really stoic and quite tough. I'm also really sweet and silly. That doesn't come off.
No, you can't.
And Matt, you're so complex. I wouldn't even fucking know how to describe you.
Yeah. Me neither.
I was going to say, have a bash.
Go on, have a crack. Right. Give us the elevator pitch. I'm not going to do that.
Oh, I was waiting with bated breath. But you see my point.
Yeah.
That maybe that there are just some individuals
who it's not tailored towards, basically. Yeah.
And the irony is, I think,
the
people that we would want may not necessarily be on there, or be that visible, or it might not be visible that is what you want, because they might be playing that game in the same kind of like, as I like to call shadow boxing way, that I do.
Keeping a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're not trying to like reveal too much about it all at once.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I think we can go. It largely does work, to be fair, but we need some alternative ways, and I don't mean like speed dating and all that kind of shit. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking of new business ideas. Things like, you know,
Just talking to people in the street.
no, because that doesn't work. Because that's weird as fuck.
I don't think it is. I do it.
Yeah, but maybe you just have like a higher speech stat.
I think for most people, yeah, it's far more difficult to do that, especially now, in this country, especially.
I'm not saying it's not difficult. I'm just saying it's worthwhile practicing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
definitely
worthwhile just like saying hello. Like,
yeah,
if you
that's
catch someone's eye, say hello.
Yeah,
and then maybe they look at you like you're a weirdo, and then you just go, all right, fair enough.
and that's
you
definitely a
walk off,
valid point.
and then you do it
but
again. And
it has bred over time, over the last sort of 10, 15 years of this like market.
Yeah, sure.
That all those skills are on the decline, and that's everyone. So no matter how good one person or yourself may be, the response isn't going to have the same level to it, usually, or a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it has to be both sides of the party need to be, you know.
Yeah. I also think a problem with the meeting up, because it is essentially a blind date, so let's not even get into like the fucking health and safety and data and all that bollocks to do with it. But it's the structure of the date in itself, right? Where you can't possibly get to know a person properly. You are sat on this side of the table, I am sat on this side of the table, here is a fucking spaghetti carbonara. Right, go and bond. That's really hard, because it's not... I don't think that's intrinsically a comfortable environment.
It's very forced, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
It is.
fabricated sort
you
of
don't have
scenario.
to have spaghetti though.
No, it can be a curry or some kind of English dish
not
if you're a
curry.
maniac. Yeah.
Not a curry on the first
If
date.
you want disgusting. No, it's a good leveler, I would imagine. You can play battleships afterwards.
Jesus.
Hopefully he won't be watching.
He's always watching.
Again, you see my point.
Yeah.
So for me, as someone who is twitchy and struggles to sit down and it's quite excitable, that's kind of my nightmare, to just be stuck there where you have this social contract. You have to sit there still and stare at the person and play by these rules.
But there's no...
Lest you get nothing.
But there is no rule that says you have to do that. Like, you can propose any kind of first date.
Oh, I
you
do, but
like.
But then you kind of also get the more gonzo type one. So it's like, oh, let's go like
mini golf.
Like axe throwing. I had to just be like, fucking axe throwing.
Apparently that's quite fun. I haven't done it.
Yeah, it seems it, but
yeah,
it doesn't seem like that kind of a date.
I've seen places pop up quite a lot, like axe throwing places you can go. Archery or like I don't know, go try martial art together for the first time.
Or should have taken her to the gun range in Prague and blown her fucking eardrums out. Like when I stupidly
it's a 50 caliber rifle.
Went for a wee and took my headphones off when Sean was firing the fucking 50 cal and I nearly jumped out of my skin.
For the 10th time.
Yeah.
Pissed on yourself.
But I still won.
Yeah,
so I guess... So we all jumped in
yeah.
there.
No, go on, mate.
Okay.
Take it back.
I was just going to ask in general, what would we propose as an alternative thing that maybe might be a curveball? So we've done the full millennial, I will do nothing but my phone. We've had Matt's, what sounds rather whimsical now, go and approach people in the street. I'm not saying it's not bad, I'm saying it's not the done thing.
No, it's not. I can't elaborate a little bit. Like I mean, like just like not just in the street. I mean, just like out and about, like where you work or like. I know that's increasingly dangerous.
But work with a shared experience is a bit different.
Right. No, I mean, like in just general day-to-day contexts in which you may be around people. Like it could be on the street, it could be when you go to a coffee shop, it could be when you're at the pub, it could be.
No, I know.
Like,
the problem is
use
a
that
lot of
phrase
people
as like,
don't do
sorry,
a lot of
yeah.
that stuff now.
No, I know, because people are very insular. People stay inside. Their
Yeah,
entertainment's provided for them on TV or on a console.
Well, if someone's on their own and therefore in theory approachable, let's say you're in a coffee shop, what are they doing? In the corner, laptop, headphones.
Yeah, headphones.
Go,
Yeah.
Excuse me.
They're not
do you fancy a
approachable.
bit?
Yeah.
Obviously
Most people
that's
now are not in a
inflating it.
state of which they are easily approachable. Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair. People, I've noticed that people sometimes don't like it when you talk to them.
Oh, yeah.
They're surprised. They're like, "What the hell?"
That's
what the
because
hell's
most
going
people
on?
are in their own
Yeah.
world or their own consume, so that anything that disrupts that is an annoyance because they're not, especially the ones that aren't particularly looking.
No,
you know,
that's
because I think in general blokes are looking to
No, I'm
like, go out there and
Right.
find girls more than the other way around.
Right, but I think some advice I've heard from a couple of people on podcasts and in person is that this is that might be a mistake that a lot of men are making. Is that when they're confronted with a woman to talk to, either online or like in person, their mind goes to, I would like to date you, and I would like this to go further than just a conversation
Basically,
in the street.
how can I convert this lead?
Right. Yeah. How can I convert this lead into a date? Whereas the advice that was given, Chris Williamson, or that's a friend of mine. He's not a friend of mine. Him and a friend of mine. But the advice was something like, this is going to sound obvious and trivial, but like talk to them like they're a person, and like you're just interested in getting to know them, and then like if it leads to something, it leads to something. But back to my earlier point, was what you're also doing is practicing just talking to people like they're people, and then that increases the likelihood in future of those interactions leading to where you would like them to go. But your mindset isn't, I would like to convert this lead into a date. It's, I'm having a conversation with someone in the street, like how's it going, what you're up to, like what, to be
fair,
organic things.
I think that's correct, and I've tried. I do that, to be fair. But I think if you're trying to do the opposite, let's say you're someone who doesn't get a lot of nibbles.
Sure.
Can you imagine how the stakes are so high and it's so loaded? Like, right, this is my one for the 3 months. This has to go well, and then obviously you're going to act like a twat because you're going to be desperate.
Well, there are those books that I think got a bad rap called The Game. Or a book that came out, like, this was years ago now, I think, but the book came out called The Game.
Was it like Bez or something like that? Or was that just a Peep Show reference?
It might be a Peep Show reference, but I don't know the author. But because it kind of got a bad rap as like encouraging men to just go out there and like prey on people, or whatever. But I think a lot of I haven't read
like start conversation basically. It's something it gives you tasks, doesn't it?
Yeah, and
it's like go out there and just talk to 10 people or something like that.
Yeah, go and say hello to 10 people today, and then like building up to ask for someone's number or whatever it is, right? And it's you are what you practice, right? Because it's like if you are, like you said, someone doesn't get a lot of nibbles, and you're very self-conscious about that, and you're like, this is, it's like you
don't act natural.
Well, and you should do the thing that terrifies you till it doesn't terrify you anymore.
Back to the last conversation. Nice.
And then you're in a better position, because then next time you're stood next to a pretty girl at a bar, you don't just start sweating.
Yeah, and
it's not shit or bust.
Yeah, it's not shit or bust. You're like, I'm going to try and start a conversation here. If it doesn't go anywhere, or she doesn't fuck off, it's like, fair enough, mate, no worries. Enjoy the rest of your night. And then off you go. And it's not like you don't leave the evening feeling like I'm a failure of a person because I'm not attractive because I tried to talk to one person that didn't go the way that I wanted it to.
Yeah.
What that book does hit on, which I think is a really valid point, which you mentioned earlier, and I've got from my research, which is, again, just fucking talking to people. Identity sells through. So, they talk about peacocking in that book, which they take to a stupid degree, like they're dressed like a fucking pimp or something stupid, so they stand out. But it goes back to your picture with the wolf mask on. If it's like, here I am, here's a stark thing, I am, you can see this is me and I'm not ashamed of it, that's very attractive. Whereas, I think you see a lot of guys who would be, air quotes, boring kind of guys, who are just like, like that thread, Reddit, or are nice guys, where it's just like, hey, I'm there, I'm nice, I'm wearing a nice shirt, and I've got a job and I comb my hair. I should get something because I'm nice. But no, you're fucking boring, mate. That's the thing. So I think that takes that to the opposite level, to the nth degree. But I think it's a very valid point to remember. So long as what you are displaying in your air quotes peacock is actually you, and you're not just trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Pull someone's leg, for want of a less British whimsical term.
And the rest of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
But this leads me on to another thing about, if you have, at risk of sounding like Jordan Peterson, to look at the data, you see how much of a disaster it is for a lot of blokes. Okay, now again, I haven't actually done the research, so I can't completely confirm this, but it's in enough places, in that. I'm trying to think of a better word than zeitgeist online that you'll see and read about, but you look at the data, it basically conforms to the Pareto principle, right? Where the take-home message is the majority of men have no fucking chance.
Yeah, 80%.
So you have to be, it's like 80%, 80 to 20, the Pareto principle. Thank you for elaborating that. I should have said that. But it is that you have to stand out in some way, because women are nature's selectors.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, as it fucking should be. And if I can pivot to have one of my classic rants,
Go for it.
this is why I fucking hate incels, right? Because because they don't go, what am I doing wrong? How can I improve myself? Why am I getting rejected? Why do I suck? Nature doesn't fucking lie. If you're not getting selected, you're not selectable.
Yeah.
But good news, mate. That's in your hands. You can do something
change
about
it.
that.
Yeah.
You can do something. It's not her fault she doesn't fancy you. Like, it's not your fault you don't fancy someone who's fucking horrible looking.
Yeah.
It's not your fault. So can you not reverse engineer or extrapolate something about that? And for me, I would like to think I've improved myself a hell of a lot. Pretty much based on rational things like that. That idea of it's your fault excites me in life a hell of a lot. Because it's fantastic.
Because it's something you can do.
Exactly, there's something you can do about it. It's not just you're fucked.
Yeah.
Precisely that. So to incels, fucking do something about it.
So something like 80% of the women only swipe yes to, I think it's like 5%, I think, or something like that. Of all males.
It's something to that effect.
Yeah.
I think we did the maths whereby in this generic data set, as a bloke you have like a 1% chance of either having someone say yes to you or meeting up with someone who would be in your bracket that you would fancy. Because
a lot of women that are, let's say, put it like 5s, 6s and 7s, don't swipe yes to the 5s, 6s and 7s of the blokes. They only swipe to the 9s and 10s
it's
of the blokes.
Skewed. It's definitely skewed. Or to someone who kind of, as blokes do as well, to be fair, meets a kind of unknown / arbitrary criteria. He likes this band, or he reminds me vaguely of my cool
very
uncle,
specific
or something.
things.
Whether or not that's subconscious. But I would like to say to blokes who aren't doing well or who perceive themselves not to be doing well, don't fret, because it's never as bad as you think. And if you're getting like, I don't know, 2 or 3 matches a month, statistically you're doing all right, mate. And if you're not, there's shit you can do about it, and you're definitely not on your own.
The thing with it is that it's not nobody wants you, it's that nobody you want wants you.
Yes, great point. So have self-awareness. Basically, be realistic about these things. And this brings me to it's going to sound a bit mean, but I've always wondered this in quite an existential way. Is when you see a couple together and you think, oh, they're not the best looking couple in the world. Are they kind of rationally evaluating their context with each other? Or do they genuinely look at the other and go, oh, that's the apple of my eye based on aesthetics in any way? I really wonder that.
Well, there might be more than aesthetics at play.
No, I'm aware of that, but that is a part of it.
Sure.
To be attracted to someone,
initially,
you have to be attracted to
initially
someone.
that is the big thing,
Well, I think that can be more or less important to people depending on their temperament or like what it is they're looking for. Like, I think for some people, physical attractiveness is important, whereas I'm stammering because I'm reluctant to speak for the minds of other people. I don't know. I feel like it might not be as important to everybody as it is to some people, and I think the fact that it's important to some people, it might seem weird that it's not as important to others.
Makes sense,
because you can, there's trade-offs and sacrifices, and because you see those couples where it's like a very attractive lady and a not very attractive male, and then they're together and they seem to love each other very much, and everyone's like, oh, he must be rich or have a very big penis or whatever it is.
Not that she would have known until it was too late anyway, but still.
Too late. Like she's already been trapped.
You know what I mean?
but that may or may not be a fair assessment, right? He may just have, he may have qualities that just generally allure to him, his physical appearance may be less important.
Yeah.
Especially in a long-term relationship as well. I think it's like when you're dating, like physical attractiveness is obviously very important. It's a high priority.
Yes, correct.
Because you are either looking for something short term for a year, 6 months, or in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
At which point, physical attractiveness is a high priority because you just want to be in the company of someone who you are attracted to, and they're attracted to you, and you can enjoy each other's physicality, and that's wonderful. But then, if you're looking for something that's long term and you want to sustain that, then that probably knocks down the rungs of priority probably quite quickly.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, because then there's the idea of like a lot of marriages break apart because people don't keep themselves physically attractive for their partner. People stop being attracted to their partner, and then the marriage breaks down because it's one of a complex web of things that are contributing to it.
I think that's a matter of respect for self and the other person as much as
it's not just
how you literally look.
Yeah,
sure.
Because we've had this conversation a few times, Jace, if I may reveal our dickishness to the world, where we've both been with people, and we try quite hard certainly with gymming. I don't want to be like we're sweaty tryhards, so I don't think we necessarily are, but when we
place a certain amount of importance on that.
When you're always going to try and look good, and you get a text like, "Oh, I'm having 3 pizzas," and I'm like, "Why are you doing that?" I know that makes me sound like a dick, but like, I tell you, I'll be more fair. There's like episodes even in the fucking Simpsons where Marge is like the nicest, most down to earth, sweet person in the world, and she says to Homer, "You're getting really fat, and it makes me less attracted to you, and that makes me sad." Because it's like he values his own enjoyment or his own shithousey schemes over his actual health or self-respect or respect for how the other person feels about it.
Yeah. Well, I think it can say something as well about your commitments to other things. Like you said, like you value your short-term, in-the-moment pleasures of eating food or drink or smoking or whatever it is over demonstrating to the people in your family that you're willing to stay healthy enough for the long run. Like, presumably you want to be around for a while, or you're going to have grandkids, and are you going to be able to get down onto the floor and play with your grandchildren or your children? Or is that going to be so exhausting for you because you haven't looked after yourself that that's not going to be something that you do, which is going to detract from the quality of your overall family unit?
Or if someone breaks in the house, can you boff them in the face without having a heart attack?
Yeah. Maybe the problem is because when people get together, obviously they're getting together on the premise of I look like this because I value this, and then when you stop doing that or cut that off, you're basically going, I'm not trying anymore on whatever it is, this health thing or going to the gym. So you're basically breaking that initial contract of I sold myself on the premise of looking like this, like I'm presenting myself.
Jason is an Adonis. Fucker.
I'm selling myself like this, and then after a year I look like total shit. Then that's like
you bug me off a bit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking about like a car.
Yeah.
You buy a shiny new like sports car.
Yeah,
and after 2 years down the road, it fucking breaks down, it's rusted to bugger, and the bonnet flies off. You wouldn't be so proud of it, and you'd get shot. Because, like, without trying to sound too shallow, and like Mr. Gilbert, it reflects very poorly on you as well to be seen driving that car, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you do have to have that self-respect in that regard. Matt, you're more of an emotional type guru. Is that horribly shallow?
No, I think physical attractiveness plays a part in most relationships. I think there may be the cases where it doesn't, or it's depending on the circumstances of people's lives. Maybe it doesn't matter at all. I don't know, but I would say for most people, it was like the idea of like what is virtuous in the ancient Greek context. Like it included the idea was excellence, right? You were in pursuit of.
Tick the box on Matt Brown Bingo, by the way.
On what?
Matt Brown Bingo.
Matt Brown Bingo.
If I mentioned the
Greek
ancient
philosophy.
Oh, Greek philosophy.
I'm talking about conquering the world and fucking sales.
Well, no, but like the statue of David, for example, right? It's just this like young lad, right, who's just like muscular, but not like he's not like wench. He's just like
for that wench for that time though, very like toned and like because that wasn't
for a human being. He's the excellent expression of a human being.
Yeah,
that's the point of the statue is that he is virtuous in that he's trained. Like his chin's up and he's looking. He's paying attention, right? He's in good nick. Right, so like these
Well, the statue was. He might not have been.
Yeah, well, yeah. Maybe. But the So but it is some like there is something about you're a human being that has certain faculties and certain capacities, and you can more or less train those or use them, or you can neglect them. Like you said, you put a lot of effort into your physicality, and then you can neglect that.
Yeah.
Right. That would be to shy away from the excellence of your physical capacities as a human being, right? You put on a lot of fat, your cardio goes down, you stop being able to move upstairs with ease or whatever, your joints start to falter, and these things are all avoidable, and you could have done something to have them not be the case. So, going back to what we were saying about the dating profiles, like you putting something out there, right? And so I think that is important. I don't think it's shallow to
have value on that.
Yeah, I don't think it's shallow to have value on it. I think it's probably like it would be shallow to have that be the only thing that's important to you in a relationship.
Yeah, but that's the only thing, or a lot of the thing you do have, especially on the apps, is that what you're looking at.
Yeah,
especially if they don't have any profile. So then, so what about when you have got those profiles where they're? Because I've matched with people, met up and gone, those pictures that are on your profile, they're a few years old, aren't they? Because you don't look quite like that anymore. You're a little bit older and a little bit bigger.
People you've been dating?
Not that much, but as in like a couple of years can make quite a difference if you put on quite a bit of weight. And I've met up before and gone, you're looking a lot more fuller than those pictures that you were advertising yourself as. Just like you've gone out and like you say about the car thing, you go and see a nice Bentley or something, you get there and they go, here you go, there's your car, and it's like it's a Corsa.
Yeah.
That's a big difference there, but you get my point.
Yeah,
that.
The analogy remains the same.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my response to that would be it kind of highlights one of the reasons why I don't like or use these apps anymore. Because yes, that is annoying.
But do you think that's in bad faith?
Well, no. So this is where I'm going.
Okay.
So I've also when I was using them, I've met other people, and you're like, that's not.
Yeah.
This isn't. They're two things.
A catfish, effectively.
Well, not. Well, this is like. So those people, in my mind, are responding to the same pressures we were talking about at the beginning, right? Which is, I'm going to alter what it is I put out because I want to get a certain series of responses.
It's sad, not conniving.
Yeah, that was like, so that person may like be lonely, or they may want company, they may want to be with somebody, and they're responding to the pressures of the app, which is, well, if I put me on there now, I guess this is your instance, is the point you're making about incels. If I put me as I am out there now, I don't get the responses that I want, or I'm alone. And maybe I don't want to be alone. And so I'll put pictures of me on when I'm 25, rather than as I am when I'm 30, or 29, or whatever. And that gets me the responses that I used to get when I was 25, and I can get those now still. It's an expediency. I don't think it's necessarily in bad faith. It could be, like, someone might just be like, well, I'm fat, lazy, I can't bother to, here's a picture of me on 25, maybe you'll just fuck me for the sake of it, because you're there, may as well, have a few beers, take 3 pounds off or whatever. So I think it can be in bad faith, and I think, like...
Because if you swap that around and say you started doing a much better and started losing a lot of weight, I'm pretty sure they're quite quick to take down their old pictures and put some new ones up where they're thinner.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, fair enough, no, fair enough, man, yeah.
Because I would, obviously.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, no, but
if it was that much of a
they would be
difference,
in a different mindset when they did that than when they're in the position when they're perhaps not feeling so great about themselves and not willing to put the effort in to change that. So maybe because it's a temptation, right? It's like there's an incentive, right? There's like a carrot, a thing you could have, and then there's a couple of pathways to get there. Right, one of the pathways is you've got to cut down a whole bunch of branches, you've got to like climb over some stuff, you've got to do a lot of work, it's a difficult path, maybe climb a few mountains or so. And then the other one is just like a nice cut lawn, and you're like, I could just walk along this one, nice and easy. The easy one being I could put the pictures up of me 5 years ago, the hard one being I could like put down the 3 pizzas, go to the gym,
get tonk again,
get myself in decent shape, and then put those pictures out there. But the mindset of the same person is going to be different from either of those paths. They're going to be two different people, right? So I completely agree with you. Yes, if they were to choose the harder path, make themselves look better, they're not going to have an issue with being like, well, now I'm better than I was when I was other mindset, and so I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah.
So like I think you're dealing with the same person but two different people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I think
That's a good point.
a point that I like to think or convey about attractiveness, particularly when it's actually not just the face but more body wise, is it tells you more about a person than just they look fit. Let's say if they're like a gym goer, you know that they have somebody to be disciplined and put their life together, not be a fucking tearaway, because you know as well as I do, if you're trying to look good, you have 3 beers and you're fucking knackered.
I perfectly agree with
doesn't
this.
happen.
Yeah.
I lost
It shows that they're like driven to something, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So that is intrinsically someone who is
cares.
more reliable, and yes, exactly, who gives a shit. And if they give a shit about that, it's likely they'll give a shit about other stuff. Because you flip reverse that. When you find someone who's like really depressed and looking terrible, obviously not that they're necessarily correlated, but what do they normally say? I don't give a shit about anything. Therefore, it's logically sound that if you can care about one thing, you can care about other
several things. Yeah.
Because that snowball effect does happen. And also, I would like to point out in their favour that, for me, in general, I found that the more attractive a girl has been that I've been with, actually the more interesting they've been. And I think I spoke to you about this before, but because I think it's really attractive people, because they're so selectable and lots of people come to them, have more knowledge and experience because they get themselves or get put into shit or interesting situations that develop them and mould them and they can talk about. That is a bit of a curveball point that I found to really be true. Because honestly, I found the fittest girls I've been with have been the smartest.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fucking weird.
Well, that kind of goes back to my point about virtue, right? This is the what manifests at the physical level, right?
As above, so below.
Right. Yeah. Well, it demonstrates the effort that you're putting in to look after, like looking after yourself, or like you're out and about. You're a sophisticated, interesting person. You've been in X, Y, and Z social situations. You've been invited to these kinds of parties. You've had these kinds of jobs. You've had a whole bunch of different experiences. But because you put yourself out there, and again, you're looking after yourself in a certain way, and then that manifests in your personality and your physicality. Whereas if obviously people, the problem with speaking in generalities, right, is there's always counter examples, right? That's like
stick to that general Pareto principle and you can't go wrong.
What is it? The outliers don't contest the rule. What is it? Is that the one?
No, the Pareto distribution.
No. I'm saying.
Oh, sorry.
In regards to that, don't talk about the outliers. It's the general rule is what. Because that's the only thing you can...
Yeah, like if you're a massive outlier and you're a 15 out of 10, fair play to you.
Yeah.
But for our data collection purposes, you're kind of not relevant.
Yeah.
Well...
Like, you can be proud of your car, but if someone comes along in a Bugatti... Yeah, you've got... It's kind of everyone's a one.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a wash.
So far out of the... Yeah. It's an outlier.
No, but I think it's tricky when we're talking about human beings, and... what they're like interacting with other human beings. I mean, because there'll be general patterns that you can abstract from how people engage with each other. We've already pointed out that just because you're a don't swear at the kid out the window. Just outed you on the internet, bro.
Try to be really subtle with that.
Just go give him his ball back, for God's sake.
No, his ball's there. He's got his ball. He's just hanging on the fence.
Okay, that's what he did. How full circle that had been if we lost the ball, and so if someone lost the ball in your front garden, we were like, "Fuck off!"
Yeah.
Oh man,
get out of my land.
It does happen. So I guess a good follow-up kind of theme would be: we've spoken quite generically in the big picture intuition of this. How has it worked for all of us? Like, what's been your take-home message from it to all of us? Starting with Jace. Get on the spot, bitch.
I'm going to need more of a prompt. So what exactly?
The take-home message from what? This general conversation?
No, sorry, as in, from your journey with the dating apps and the dating world in general. Has it worked for you? Has it not worked for you? What, if you were to be looking again, what would you do differently, etc.?
I don't really know. It's difficult because I know I'm very selective, and certain little things can just put me off, which shouldn't. And I've been told I should give more of a open open brackets with my pool of people. And sometimes I'm not selective. It's difficult to say. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm going to back you up quite considerably here. Is that obviously we'll never name names. I think you know what I'm going to say. Well, there's one person that you were seeing for a while and finally like acquiesce to being in the official relationship with, and then you end it shortly after.
Oh yeah.
Because she demonstrated something that it wasn't like bad. It just wasn't for you.
Yeah.
And you know there was a lot of like, oh, why have you done that? But I get why you did it, because like if you're doing this now, it's a personal space type issue.
Yeah.
You need space. They clearly don't want to give it to you or don't understand what that means to you.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Which I think in a lot of corners would make you cast as the villain.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't see it that way at all. That's someone actually not wasting your own time and their time, because you can't give them what they wanted.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I guess progressing on those lines for you, that's worked so far, would probably be the way to do it. So okay, it's like a plenary. So one thing that you, if you were to do this again, could improve about your manner or behaviour or thinking on this. So would it be maybe being less arbitrary about certain things?
Yeah. Also, I struggle with, because being inherently an introvert, I find it quite a struggle to engage with, especially multiple, which I rarely ever like overlap talking even to any of, let alone met up with multiple. So I've often had, and I'm not blowing smoke up my own arse or anything like with this, but had multiple matches in a certain sort of time frame or speaking to a certain few, and I've had to basically have the feeling to boff off all but one just to focus on, not like almost selflessly, because I wanted to like focus on one, as well as like not having the energy and resources to like engage with multiple, right? So going back, I would probably allow myself to be more open with several at a time, because I know that's what's happening on the other end of that as well, on their side, that they're probably talking to multiple. Not that it should be reciprocal in that sense, and I know that there's been some which I've not engaged with properly enough to begin with, or for long enough, and that could have been potentially good.
That can be an existential hell if you think about it, so probably best not to.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably what I would have done.
Nice.
Because there's a couple of examples I can think of when I've basically chosen one over another based on certain factors, which things like if one of them was more reciprocal in terms of like talking or more engaging, then obviously I'd boff off the other one sooner. Boff off. Yeah, boff off. Yeah, I don't know. Does that make sense? All good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Matt, same question, I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't use the apps.
Sorry, guys.
Have some water. Want some water?
Sparkling water. I'll take some of this. I'm sure he's a bit less disgusted by me than you are.
I don't
I thought you say he's a bit less disgusting than you. Matt, you're disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm really hot.
The humanity. All right, big dog.
I'm a 10. What about you? In fact, I don't care.
Anyway, sorry, Matt.
That's right. Well, I don't use the apps. I prefer to meet people, either out and about, either when I go away or just in the kind of day-to-day circumstances, like people I work with or...
Heads up, ladies.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I prefer it. I've still, in not using the apps, it's been kind of like I've weaned myself off them. So like I used to use them quite a lot, and then I would not use them, and then I would use it again. Then not. I think loads of people do this.
Relapse.
They delete it and download it.
Oh yeah. That seems to be a common thing, especially amongst females. I think that's more common than guys. Guys tend to stick
Or
with
just
using them
keep it on,
regardless.
I
And
think they're
girls
thinking
have
about
on and off.
opportunity cost. Blokes a bit more, yeah.
Yeah. I prefer. So I did a stint of sort of travelling a few years ago, and I'm about to again, and
Which he loves to bring up, by the way.
yeah, because it was fun. I found myself.
It's a joke, man.
And I found myself when I did it. Well, there's an upside and downside to this. The first time I went away, I met like 3 or 4 women whilst I was away, and then in the ensuing 3 or 4 years, I had a relationship sort of with all of them. Different times, sometimes overlapping. It did come with a lot of stress of me trying to traverse that weird little landscape.
Triangle, whatever, yeah.
Well, no, because I was like, I like all of you. You're all great, and I would like to be with some of you more than the other at different times, or I want to talk to you, and I'm like attracted to you all sexually, and but then obviously I was like seeing some of them at the same time, and then that didn't land well, or obviously
Didn't it?
didn't it? Oh, I wonder why
They weren't alright with
I
that.
wonder why.
Yeah.
No, but individually, like I had an amazing, I had really good interactions, meaningful interactions with all 3 or 4 of these women, and I don't know, it's not that I'm looking forward to that again, but I am looking forward to. I like just plonking myself down in a.
Okay, so do you think you got more from those relationships than you would have done had you met them through an app? Because you've met them organically.
I think so, personally, yeah. I've had relationships that I've met people on apps, but I mean they weren't great because I wasn't great. Like I was not my best self. I wasn't a good person in my mid-20s, and so I wasn't a good person in the relationships that I was in my mid-20s.
But you think those relationships developed more or better than you met them
I think
via apps?
I think I'm just more. It's easier for me to be myself when I'm out and about in the world, just trundling around, bumping into people. I'm more likely to just, if I have a conversation with someone, depending on, it's,
yeah.
like, especially when I take myself out of my home context as well. I don't know why that is, but like when I'm just out in the world, I'm just like, I could just
more.
Yeah, I can just like fall into myself, like easier, I guess, and that's like you were saying earlier. That's attractive to people.
Yeah.
And then and I think because you're also meeting similar people who are doing the same kind of thing, the kinds of interactions you have can be very
relatable. Yeah.
Well, and immediately deep, right? Like it's like you can click with each other, and you're already proximate to each other. So it's not like there's a gap between you and in the app, because you can set your radius or whatever it is to 3 miles or 20 miles or whatever it is, and so when you meet someone out in the world or when you're out and about, like you're already there.
There's
right?
more trust as well, just because obviously here's the flesh and blood.
Yeah. Like and you can be manipulative still. You can still trick and you can still deceive and all the rest of it, but and that's a temptation, obviously.
Yeah. To a point, but less than you would be able to do online. Because you can only put so much of a mask on in the flesh to someone, but the mask is almost limitless via online.
I tell you what,
profile.
I also found myself. We almost touched on this before when we were talking earlier, before the podcast. One of the reasons I stopped using them completely was because of my kind of philosophical or academic interests. I felt like I had to not talk about them. Like when I was doing a Tinder or whatever it was thing, I couldn't put it on there because it's not that immediately interesting to everybody, and it's quite political, it's quite divisive, or can be, and I found myself feeling like I have to leave that part of me to the side. And then there's the expectation to bring other things. Like, what else is it that you do? I was like, well, nothing really. This is kind of the thing I think about all the time. And so that's kind of me at the moment. Whereas I guess when I'm out and about, if I feel comfortable enough to talk to someone about that, I'm already way past where I was getting anywhere near on the dating apps.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I meet someone and they express an interest in what I'm doing, and I feel comfortable enough to talk to them about what it is I'm up to. I'm like fucking I'm miles ahead of where I would be if I was using an app.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
And so like I'm like I kind of like I don't know, it's like a sorting mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, someone you can have. If I can talk to someone about my I don't know, the religious architecture of Hegelian thought, or like the influence of Marxism on social justice landscapes, or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, because otherwise, because I meet
I got
people
you.
and like I like them or we get on or whatever, but then I have to leave that to the side, and it's quite a lot of what I do, and it's quite exhausting to bring other things. And I'm like, well, it's like I went for a curry the other week, and one of my mum's friends was like, oh, so do you follow the football, mate? It's like, oh, not really, mate. It's like rugby. It's like, nah, not really. Boxing. No. And then I basically just listed loads of things, and I was like,
None like that. Yeah.
He's like, what do you do? I was like, oh, I read mostly.
Yeah.
I didn't say what I read.
On either side, he went for fuck's sake.
Yeah, he was like, well, you know, it'd be boring if we were all the same. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. Good point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
What about yourself, Dan?
Okay, so Dan,
Your question to yourself.
Fuck, I was hoping you'd forget.
No.
I'd say definitely try and play it in a less mechanical, salesy numbers game way. Going slightly less for mass appeal. Because well, without being a dick, I did at times get overwhelmed with numbers on there, not because I'm so great, but basically because I had a profile that's quite well crafted. But also I did a different kind of technique, because most people obviously will like who they like, right? Whereas I would have quite a good idea of who would like me, and I would like them based off of that, as opposed to how I thought about them. Also, they have to beat a certain score, for the sake of argument. And it did go quite well in terms of the numbers. Not always the quality, it must be said. But there was some proof of concept there. Anyway, I digress, talking about more business type shit. Basically, yeah, be more authentic and less mechanical about it, I think. Or, to be honest, just try, not that I'm looking in any way, shape or form at the moment, try just some other way of doing it, where there is maybe slightly a more contrived or structured way of interacting in real life first. You know, so out there, I'm sure there's various things out there where you can do that in a way that's kind of slightly loaded, but not as loaded as thing, where you can have the self-awareness with each other, like, this is a bit weird, isn't it? Yeah. So
like a speed dating sort of like group like sort of thing.
Well,
like a big group
to that effect, but not speed dating. Because that's quite cringe and very. It's like drop. Here's the stakes here. But some kind of like, just there's a big old group. We're all going down the woods. Fucking have at it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. You know, I think that would not be a bad shout for me.
Yeah.
Bit more community vibes.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially,
you can
be less of a mechanical monster.
Yeah, well, I guess in that context, you can see them interact with other people as well.
Yeah.
It's not just like a one-on-one. It's like a one-on-one in a social context. Like, you know.
How are you with others as well?
Yeah. How sophisticated are they with other people?
That's actually a really great point, because the people around me are the biggest part of my life, and I have been with people quite a few times who purport to be all happy and smiley and nice, but they do not want to interact with anyone else, and they hate being around like a wider community. They hate being around my friends, so that leaves me completely fucked and kind of like torn in two, to be honest.
Sure.
So it's really bloody horrible. So yeah, I think that's a great shout, which I hadn't thought of.
There you go.
Nice. Thanks, guys.
Mushroom trip in the woods.
Sure. You'd certainly see the inner recesses of people's minds doing that kind of shit.
Well, your own, at least, anyway.
Oh, I've already seen that. Actually, it was quite life affirming.
Conversation for the next podcast.
I think that's a good one to finish on.
That rather upbeat bombshell. Let's sack it off. Thanks for listening.
Boff it off, you mean?
Boff it off. Sorry, boff it off.
Boff it.
Go.
Right, this has been the
Sons of Aries podcast.
We'll see you next time.
Go well, guys.
See you later.